Why, hello, and welcome back to Dolli Crafter. We're just in time for Mermay! Well, not quite. You see, when I originally started this project, it was May. But then I started editing the video and I ran into some really bad technical difficulties. Is it even a mermaid if it's not May? Can I even post this video? Sure, why not? Mermaids don't have to be made in May. Technically, the hashtag Mermay is for May, but as long as we're having fun, that's all that counts. Now let's go make a mermaid! Whoa, I got a little excited there. I apologize. On to crafting. Introducing the star of today's episode, Laguna. With this project in mind, I actually picked up this Laguna because she didn't have any legs. I thought it would be perfect for what we're working on today. Well, that and the fact that she has a beautiful face. All right, come on, Laguna. Now, using acetone, we're gonna go ahead and remove that beautiful, beautiful face, her eyes, oh no. Sometimes when I'm doing this step, I get heartbroken because I actually like the way the doll looks before, but it's necessary. Let's go. The next step is to submerge her into boiling water, which is uncomfortable. I can only imagine what it's like to be one of these dolls, like just constantly being submerged into hot water. Gosh, that must suck.
Oh no!
All right, so remove her head without breaking the neck peg. There we go. Then taking my thingamajig, scrape around the inside of her head to loosen up all the hair plugs. We're gonna go ahead and take acetone yet again and remove the factory paint from the top of her head. Man, acetone really does a number on nails, as you can see. Once she's all clean, it's time to take all that crap out of her head. So we're gonna cut her head open using an X-Acto blade. Carefully cut, do not cut yourself. Cut, 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 cut. Still cutting. There, ugh. This is honestly like my least favorite, but also like my favorite part, if that makes sense. Like it's gross to look at, but satisfying to do. But let's hurry this up because I don't really want to look at it for too long. And neither do you, right? Ah, nice. Everyone, meet my really old super glue. It's so hard to open every single time because it's so old. It's like rubber at this point. But I go ahead and try to use it anyway on her gaping head wound because we need to seal this up. Fan it just a little so it's more tacky, and then close her shut. After a couple of minutes, I'm going to take my gloopy super glue and just run it along that seam just for added protection. I'm going to be giving her weft this time, so I'm not concerned with clogging any of the hair plugs. You would be concerned with this if you were rerouting your doll. Fan her for the last time, and then on to the next step. Sawing pieces off of her body. No! I'm just kidding. So originally, I had stolen some legs from a Frankie doll, just so that I can try to maneuver them in this doll somehow. I wanted to anchor wire into her shins, basically, to start forming the fin, but my saw just would not cooperate and I kept breaking the blades, so I tossed them. Switching to a more practical solution, I turned to wire. I started by cutting a very long piece of this wire and then folding it in half. I double-checked to make sure that it's an even length before inserting it into the hole her legs used to go in. I then start twisting from the very top to the very bottom just to reinforce the strength. At the end of this armature, I've created a loop. I'm basically just going to take a piece of wire, put it in through this loop, so that it becomes the armature for the bigger fin at the bottom of her tail later on. I twist the very top of it to secure it in place, and that's it. Armature complete. Okay, so using this stand that I built off camera, I'm basically going to be forming the armature wire in the desired position. This will be what she's going to be displayed on, so I want to make sure that she fits correctly and comfortably. I want her flow of motion to make sense with the stand. And before we can even begin to bulk up the tail, I want to protect the stand by putting some aluminum foil on top of it. We're going to be using hot glue and epoxy, and I just want to make sure it doesn't get ruined. Moving right along, we're gonna start tearing little pieces of foil to start building up certain areas of her tail. We're gonna start with her thighs and her booty first. Because, your girl can't have a crooked booty. We're gonna shape it to the actual doll to make sure that the proportions are somewhat reasonable. Once you have the shape that you want in mind, my camera refuses to focus properly. Why are you doing this? Anyway, once you have the desired shape, put some hot glue in her thigh holes, and you're just gonna glue her new tinfoil booty in place. Make sure that it has the right proportions and position before proceeding with the rest of the tail. Once you have her booty glued down in place, you can finally move on to bulking up the rest of the tail using tinfoil. You're going to do this using many layers of tinfoil and also sculpting in between those layers to make sure the desired shape is achieved. If by the end of this stage you're happy with the shape of the tail, you can go ahead and move on to the next step. I, however, wanted to add layers of hot glue to the tail to further bulk it out and give it more definition. I went in again, layer by layer by layer by layer by layer, until my desired shape was achieved. And this was it. Fully encased in a tube of hot glue. Moving right along to fins, I decided that this mermaid would receive 4 smaller fins placed on either side of her tail. I made the smaller fins using the same wire as we did before and created a loop so that when we insert it into the tail, the hot glue has something to anchor onto. I'm going to use this tool to basically stab her a bunch of times.
What? You're gonna stab me? Are you serious? You're gonna just torture me? This is just too much. It's too much. Too much.
Relax, June. It's all done.
Oh, that's a relief.
Guess what time it is? It's party time. It's sculpting time. It's epoxy time. It's party time. Finally, oh my gosh, we are sculpting. We are using our tools and we're getting it done. Yes, let's get these scales in. All right, sorry guys, I'm actually pumped. Now, if you don't know what epoxy is, which I doubt because you're here, you're watching this channel, I'm sure you've watched other channels do this, but in case you haven't, epoxy is a 2-part epoxy clay. You're meant to take equal parts of each container and smush them together. Once you have successfully smushed your 2 parts of epoxy together and they're fully mixed in with one another, the hardening process begins. I'd say you have about an hour to 2 hours of comfortable working time before you have to start dipping your fingers in water, etc., etc. I try to get my sculpting done within an hour because I work in smaller sections. So here I am making thousands of tiny spheres just so that I can lay them on this tail. Believe it or not, this tail took me 3 days with 3 smaller sections. It was pretty labor intensive, but very well worth it. All right, let me explain how to get these scales properly smushed. You basically pick up the sphere and then you smush it. That's it. You literally just smush one side of the sphere into a teardrop and you get this. And you just go around the tail over and over again. Now, I did an extra step and took a sculpting tool and made little lines for texture, but this is optional. I mean, this is all optional, but I love the way it turned out. Okay, wait a second. Hold the phone. We've been here before. We've taken our head off already. Yes, we have, but we're going to do it again because while I'm doing the scales, I want to be able to do her face up. So we're going to prep her face. This is me showing you Mr. Super Clear and the fact that it's super dangerous and don't breathe it in. Definitely don't do it indoors. Go outside, wear a mask, open a window. But yes, I needed to complete this tail. Making these little spheres over and over and over again. My hands were just so cramped up. I needed this tail behind me. Yes, onto the face up. Something new, something different. Love it. We're gonna go in with watercolored pencils and lightly sketch the shape of her eyes. Now, to date, I have not done many drawn-on eyes, so symmetry is still quite a bit of a challenge for me, so I go in really light at first. Like maybe the first 2 layers is just super invisible. But I just want to make sure I like the shape first before I start darkening things up. Now, once I have the general eye shapes down, I'm happy with them, I go in with pastels and start the blushing process. In this particular case, I'm actually going to be changing her skin color completely. She's more of like a blue, steel blue color right now, and I'm going to be turning her into a more pink, purpley color. Since deciding I was going to do a mermaid, I already knew that I wanted her eyes to be blue like the ocean. So I'm going to just do the outside of the iris in a very dark blue, and then color the inside with a lighter blue. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to lay down a layer of Mr. Super Clear so that I can go back with the darker color and create an ombre effect. This will give the effect of like shadows and depth to her eyes. For her eyebrows, I apply a very thin but wide layer of pastels. The trick here is to make it almost invisible so that you can later go in with an eraser and basically subtract instead of add. I find it's easier to define a shape this way. Once I have a shape that I like, I lay down a layer of Mr. Super Clear, and then I can go in and confidently define them. Let me give you guys what you want. Let's just jump to the final product. Look how pretty! Now that it's been 24 hours, it's time to finally paint the tail. I'll be using Deco Art Enchanted Paint. They're an iridescent top coat acrylic paint, and they recommend that you use a dark base. But I wanted to sample what it would look like on both black and white. So I made a swatch and just sampled both of the colors. After they dried though, I ended up just picking the dark base like they suggested. It just matched so perfectly with the hair I couldn't resist. I can't express to you how good it felt to finally be painting this tail. I'd been staring at the same concrete gray color, so it was just so nice to see it just anything else. I ended up giving the same treatment to her hands. I thought it would be nice to make it look like she had gloves or something. I don't know. Wow. Come on, do you see that? That's really nice. That iridescent, oh, it's just so pretty. I painted it in an ombre effect, basically working my way from one color to the other, and it was just, mwah, chef's kiss. I did the same effect on her hands and her arms as well. Once this paint is dry, I'm going to go ahead and give her tail, hands, arms, and her chest piece a coat of gloss varnish. I love this step so much. It just brings so much life into the piece. Oh, and her eyes. Can't forget her eyes. Some people actually don't like doing this step because it's bad for photography, but I don't really mind it so much. I might try it one day without it, but for now, she's just glossy. For her eye shines, I'm going to be using chunky glitter. I'm going to take a pair of embroidery scissors and just cut tiny pieces off of one chunk, and then use that as an eye shine. I've already applied it on her left eye, but I'll show you kind of what I did on her right. So with a tweezer, I just stuck the piece of glitter on the end and carefully, while shaking so much, because this is so small, I put the glitter right where I would put an eye shine instead. And once it sticks to the varnish, I let it sit. There we go. Pretty, glittery, sparkly eyes. It's hair time, it's hair time. Okay. You'll see as this project progresses, I'm gonna get more and more excited because it was such a long project. Okay, so this yarn, I got it at my art store. It was in the clearance section, so it was missing its original packaging, so I don't know if it's acrylic or wool, but it's perfect in color. I'm gonna just line it up, make sure I have even sections before I fold it and cut it. This step is just basically determining how long I want the hair, and so I start with really, really long pieces first and then just cut from there. Once I make the first cut, I line it up against her head and then try to visualize, all right, how long do I want this mermaid's hair to be? Medium length, long length, medium length? No, long length. So repeating that first process, I'm gonna fold it in half again. Before cutting, I'm just gonna double check. It looks good. After folding it one last time, you make the final cut. There you go, a nice floofy pile of yarn. Now taking a single strand, you're just gonna pull the two sections apart. Very slowly and carefully. If it snags at the end, that's fine. It's normal, it's just the fibers, they're kind of stuck together, so just trim them at the ends. What you don't want is volume being removed from either of the strands. So if one strand becomes oddly thin, just put it to the side and recycle it for another project. Look how cute! So you're gonna do this process for quite some time, and it's up to you how much you wanna do. I ended up doing the entire pile just in case because I rather have more and not use it than need it and have to redo this process again. Final strand, and there we go. Get out of here, Fuzz. Oh, it's so nice. Get out of here. Thank you. Just so shiny, just so fluffy, just so yummy. Yes, 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 yes. Alrighty then. Now let's get these locks onto her head. Using epoxy glue, I'm gonna lay down small sections of this glue directly to her scalp. Then using the yarn pieces we cut earlier, I'm gonna directly place those on top of the glue. I'm gonna press them in with my thumb and then proceed to the next section. Just like everything else in this project, we're gonna repeat this process over and over and over again. Now her hair is for the most part going to be down, so I didn't want to make this video any longer or talk any more than I had to, so I provided you with magic. Now, wasn't that satisfying? Hair is complete. Let's turn this old placemat into some fins. I had this placemat that just vibed sea life, and I thought it would be perfect if cut correctly to form her fins. I also thought to layer this on top of some iridescent vinyl that I bought off Amazon. I thought the two just looked so perfect together. Using an X-Acto blade, I roughly cut out the shapes that I want for the fins. After cutting out each shape, I layer it on top of the wire of the tail to make sure that it fits correctly. Then it's just a matter of repeating this process over and over again, and then layering the pieces to make sure that they fit. Here we are. Beautiful iridescent fins. Using hot glue, I just sandwiched the two pieces together with the wire in between. Ta-da! Now for some extra pizzazz, I decided to go ahead and just add some glitter. But after that, guess what? She's ready to assemble! Everyone, meet June. I'm so happy that I finally get to share her with you guys. It's been a long road, but here we are. Thank you for sticking around if you made it to the end of this video, and please enjoy the short little clip that I made for you guys who did stick around. I'll see you in the next video. Bye! No way. Are you real?
Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Dolly. What's yours?
Hi, Dolly. I'm June. And of course I'm real, silly.
Oh no, your pearls. Please don't cry. I'll go get them.
You will?
Yeah, sure. I'll just go ahead and climb down the cliff. Something I do all the time. All right, that was a piece of cake. Here you go.
You know what? You should keep them.
Really? Oh boy. Well then, I'm gonna go get that.
course.
It was really nice meeting you, June.
Uh-huh.
Thanks again for the pearls, and I'll see you next time, all right? Okay, bye-bye then.
Oh, boy.
All right, let's get this mermaid. I did 2 larger and 4 small. You don't count. In order to call this project complete, we have to complete her completion.